Hello and welcome to Eramis Soccer, where we continue our journey through the CONCACAF Gold Cup. We've said goodbye to Trinidad, Justin, which was a
Unfortunately.
shame, and we have followed their path by tracking the Group A winners, the USA, into the quarterfinals. Great decision. What a game. What a game. One of the best games I've seen. I understand the narrative around this tournament of the backup players and what have you, but just for a one-off singular event, this would have been talked about for years, if not decades, if this was the World Cup quarterfinal, no?
I guess so, yeah. What's more important is the two teams that are playing against each other. You got the US and you got Canada, two rivals in the sport and national level. So, it was either going to be a boring game or a great game, and it turned out to be a fantastic game.
Yeah. And
So for neutrals and for Canadian fans, for US fans, for fans following the Gold Cup and just soccer people in general. I say soccer, but football in general. It was a great spectacle and a good game, great game.
yeah. And shout out to FC Cincinnati. Great stadium, great venue, great
Yeah, I've not been there
atmosphere.
yet.
Really looked like something.
Yeah, I've not been there just yet. I need to get there, but yeah, Cincinnati was. I mean, for a team like Cincinnati, where they've come from and started, however many years ago to get to the USL, get to a good run in the Open Cup, to then get into the MLS bid, get an MLS team, started off really bad, now doing really well in the MLS, now to even hold a new stadium with international games. And what a game to hold, the US against Canada in the Gold Cup. What a stage. And it was great for the city, and I'm sure it's going to continue, that they're going to have many more games there because apparently it's a fantastic stadium.
Yeah. So the lineups were Canada come out in a 3-5-2, Dane Sinclair in goal, Kamal Miller, McGraw, and the impressive Vittoria, who would play a pretty key role in the game as a back three. Centre mid of Ahmed, Osorio, and Bombito. Richie Laria on the right wing. The very impressive left winger, Liam Miller. And a front two of Cavallani and Junior Hoylett, veteran of the English Championship. I imagine
Still
you've played
playing.
against Junior at some point.
I have, yeah, when he was at Blackburn. So yeah, I can't believe he's still going. But yeah, credit to him. He's still playing for the national team, so he's doing great.
I think you just called him old.
No, he's not old. He's younger than me, so he's not nowhere near old. Early 30s is old in football terms, but in his terms, no, that's still young.
And far as the USA go, Matt Turner in goal, unchanged back four of Dewan Jones, Miles Robinson, Jalen Neal, Brian Reynolds. Midfield three of Sands, Busio, and Mihailovic. Gressel on one wing as the only change from the previous Trinidad game. In for Roldan, Zendejas on the other wing with Ferreira, the hotly discussed Jesus Ferreira as a number 9. Pretty good lineup. A lot of ability on the ball, pace at fullbacks. Fun to watch. I like this team. I understand it's not the strongest US has to offer. I understand that there's some relatively big guns out of the lineup, but if you're looking at it through the lens of what it was as young players given a chance to see how they perform at a tournament, to see if they can add depth to the A roster, I would call this game a success in terms of how many people showed well. Anyone stand out to you in particular over this game as someone who impressed you?
Yeah, there was a few, and as we're talking about, people saying it's not, or fans or the US even national team, they know it's not their major players to say. Yes, they have got a few players in there. They're missing a handful of players. That's understanding. It's still a tournament. I just see it as young players given the chance with the opportunity to showcase themselves, knowing that 2026 is the World Cup, and you're looking at the team that probably played in this game and throughout this tournament. I would say a lot of them you would look at as potential players in that World Cup. So
Yeah.
it's an opportunity for them to showcase themselves and an opportunity to show the fans and themselves, show their ability and know what they can do in a tournament football. Reynolds, I'm a big fan of. Boosie, I'm a big fan of. Ferreira, I'm a huge fan of. And even, Vasquez coming off the bench, I'm a huge fan of. And, you add that to the likes of Tyler Adams, Acosta. You're looking at experienced US national team who I feel when it comes to the World Cup in the US are going to be very, very strong. Do I think they're going to get to the semifinals and final? You never know. I don't think so. But, these players are going to have that European international experience. And, anything could happen leading up to that World Cup. And these players are only going to get better. They're going to get wiser. They're going to get stronger. And tactically, they're going to get better. And if you're building this team now in this tournament, looking for the World Cup, what a stage to do it. And how many more games they're going to play together as a team. You get that match understanding week after week in tournaments. Who knows how far they can go, but it's a great opportunity for the players. I wouldn't, as a fan, I wouldn't be angry at some of the players. I'll be happy to think, look, what a bright future the US national team have got.
Yeah. I think what a lot of fans don't think, because when you read the debate around the players from pundits and you see it spill onto social media, is everyone's made their mind up. But people have to grasp just what a long time between now and the next World Cup is. I mean, Dele Alli's in the news today. You go to 2018 World Cup, Dele Alli is an impact starter on an England team that's got the semi-finals. 3 years later, Dele Alli's nowhere to be seen. He's been replaced. Following Balogun, you go back 18 months. He's riding high now, and that's understandable. You go back 18 months, there's 21 games on loan at Middlesbrough in the second tier. I watched almost all of them, and there's 3 goals and 3 assists. Now, at that point in time, nobody is knocking on the table and banging the door down for Fuller and Balogun. And the beauty of Twitter is they're time-stamped and you got the dates, and you're not going to find a narrative during his Middlesbrough career that he is this savior of the USA. But 1 year later, he goes to France, he outscores Neymar, Messi, he has an unbelievable year. And it's not that now we have a camp who argue that Matt Balogun was bad because he was in Middlesbrough, or he's good because he was in France. They both happened. That's what development is, right? So who's going to be the next guy to spike where he's so good 12 to 18 months from now, we don't even remember the criticism from today?
I know. And the thing is, everyone's talking about, he's one of the US national team's probably at the minute most well-known players or best players, to people would say, is Pulisic. But coming to the World Cup, who knows what's going to happen? Is he still going to hit the right form leading into the World Cup? Is these younger players going to take his position? Because, as time goes on, these players are going to develop. They're going to get better. Are they going to be better than him? When the tournament comes round, you just never know. Pulisic might not play a lot of games. He didn't at Chelsea, but he's still done a great job for the national team when he's played. But you look at some of these other players and the way they're playing together at the minute, you would have to think that, these stand a good chance of starting ahead of Pulisic, some of them. I know they won't, but, coming to the World Cup in 2026, it is possible that 1 or 2 of these will be starters.
Yeah.
And there'll be a few surprises, I'm sure, with the national team from the US, that one of the main stars will be either out of the squad or on the bench, and 1 or 2 of these younger players will be in the team for sure. It's 100% there will be. The guy who's at Leeds as well, the midfielder, can't remember. Is it Anderson?
Weston McKennie.
Weston McKennie.
Both at Leeds.
Tyler Adams, and there's another one, isn't there? Midfielder. He was at
Brendan Aronson. Yeah.
What a player.
Yeah, very good player.
I think he's great. I think he's a great player. I watched him I played against him in the USL when he was at Philadelphia. I played against him in
Union too.
Yeah, and played against him in MLS. And I think tactically and his ability is great. And I think he's just under Pulisic at the minute. And I can see him, if he keeps on developing the way he does, maybe he moves and goes abroad somewhere and develops that way. I could see him being a regular starter and maybe the number 10 for the US.
Yeah, gotcha. So on to this game. Interesting first 10 minutes. And the reason I say interesting is there was only the ball in play for 2 of them. USA went forward early, long ball forward. side referees being smashed in the face, and we have an 8-minute delay to sub out the referee.
Oh, wait to start it.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm thinking at the time, this is going to last longer than 90 minutes, but had no idea just how much longer this game would go. But that was maybe a sign of the chaos to come. The first real chance in terms of flash on goal, I had as down as the 18th minute. Gressel feeds Busio, shot wide. And in this first, 20 minutes, this game is tight. It's gritty. It's a battle. There's not really many passing lanes to get between lines and turn upfield. And it looks like exactly what Canada's looking for, right? To take the pressure off, quiet the crowd down, not let the game get too helter-skelter. And, in my opinion, most upsets happen when the underdog scores first. I don't believe a lot of upsets come from coming from behind. I believe the vast majority of upsets, I don't have the numbers, but come when you dull the blade of the favourite and you score the first goal or keep the game tight deep into the game. What were your thoughts on the opening period?
Yeah, I think they're still finding each other out. And, with these, you call these games derbies and rivalries. You do. It's the US and Canada. It's a rivalry. They are battles to start off with. I feel you've got to earn the right to play. And it really showed early on that both the teams were doing that and finding, trying to play their style of play. But with these games, it's always a battle to start off with until the game settles down a little bit. But I still feel it was helter-skelter just because of that 8-minute delay. Yeah.
The left winger, Liam Miller, I thought he was Canada's biggest outlet. I thought he was impressive, causing problems. 23rd minute, we get a corner. It's an error from the young centre-back, Jalen Neal. He just passes back to Turner errantly. Ball goes out to play. Miles Robinson heads the ball clear. Miller puts in a second cross. It's dealt with Turner. But this game is on a knife edge. It feels like a competition. It feels live. And then we have a penalty appeal in the 20th minute where Laria goes down under a challenge from Neal. I thought it was a dive, to be honest with you. VAR, have a look. It seems they agree. What were your thoughts on that play?
No, I thought it was a dive. Looking at it, you think it's a dive. Nowadays, I feel if it wasn't VAR, they probably would have given a penalty. But nowadays with VAR, there's no chance of getting a penalty for that.
That's interesting. So you think the referees were more inclined to give penalties when there was no review?
Yeah, I feel they were just because they've not got that second opinion and someone else overlooking decisions. I felt like if there wasn't VAR, they would make a decision based on what had happened, maybe impact, rather than taking a step back and thinking, oh, could it have been, might it have been. I felt like if someone went down in that situation, it's straight automatically a penalty. Whereas now it's kind of like, okay, we've got a minute, we can assess the situation. Do I think there's a penalty? I'm not sure. Oh, I've got someone I can speak to. Right, okay. If I don't think I'm right, at least someone else can overlook it and show me, and then you get the decision. So in that sense, as a defender, VAR does work. As an attacker, looking at VAR, you're thinking, why have we got VAR?
That's an interesting perspective. I'd never looked at it that way, but it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So far in the game, the TV graphics flash up 52% of the ball for Canada. St. Clair, this will change later in the game, but he's not really made a save yet. And primarily through the outlets of Miller and Laria on the flanks, I feel like Canada's knocking on the door and causing a threat. I feel like that opening block of the game went as they would have planned. USA's biggest threat comes about 26 minutes in. There's a long ball to Gressel, takes it on his chest, volleys a through ball to Zendeja. He squares the ball. They win a corner. Corner falls to Ferreira. Shots blocked. I thought Gressel in the first half was maybe USA's best player. I thought he looked like an outlet. I thought he had some quality on the ball. I thought he could hold the ball. But with that said, in the first half in isolation, I didn't really feel like USA looked that likely to score. We got 10 minutes of injury time scheduled at the end of a half, which is a result of the referee incident. Laria bursts into the area again. He's direct, he's confident, he goes down again. There's no appeal, but he's clearly got under the skin of the young centre-back, Jalen Neal here. who's chirping away in his ear because we've gone down twice now. And, you know, as much as Neil's frustrated and probably calling him a cheat, watching that, it seems like advantage Laria, right? Because you've gone into the defender's head, you've got under his skin, you've got him probably fearing contracting you in the area. So I thought Neil had a rough first half, and I thought he looked under pressure. And I understand he's 19 and these things are going to happen, and it's probably good that he's got this game in the bank. Hoyte goes free down the right, squared the ball to Reynolds, who clears over the own bar with wide open Miller waiting at the back post. And then there's a penalty appeal again, and it's a strange play. The game continues. I thought nothing had happened. What seems like half a minute later, VAR calls it back, and it looks like the ball's headed into the arm of Robinson. But then after a long delay, we get a call of no penalty. And then finally, 56 minutes after we've kicked off, it's halftime. So not really the fireworks that would come in the second half and overtime, but a good game. You know, what's your summary of the first half? What are you thinking if you're coaching the USA?
I feel like it's not. You'd look at it and think it's not too bad. For the US, yeah, you would like to create more chances, clear-cut chances, get your forwards more involved in the game and getting more chances. But at the end of the day, you know, it's a tough game. You're playing against a good Canadian side who want to cause an upset. So I'm like thinking, right, second half, let's, you know, go for it a little bit. We're at home. We're the home team. You know, we feel we're stronger than the opponent. So let's go and impose ourselves on the team and try and get a goal. And but yeah, if I was the coach, I'd be happy enough to say, right, we're doing okay, but I want to see a little bit more in the second half because we need to get a victory. Not even just get a victory, but I need to see a little bit more from you guys in that sense.
I thought what made it interesting to me at halftime is USA is a good enough team, and obviously they can make the step to get the fullbacks forward more. They're both very impressive going forward, throw more bodies forward, be more aggressive. But when you've got Miller and Laria on either wing causing the most damage, it does get in your head about being counterpunched, and
you have to be careful.
Sort of dulls your attack at the root, right?
Yeah, it does, and you have to be careful defensively. You can't just go gung ho attacking wise, and you know when you've got two attacking good fullbacks like that. You've seen what Larry has done in the box. I mean, you know, how many times did he go down and he didn't get the penalty? And, you know, that could have gone the opposite way. And then you're looking at you being 1-0 down and it can be in a completely different situation. And even in the first half or in the second half, you know, you try and attack a bit more and, you know, you leave a bit more space for them to attack in and they exploit it and they score and it's 1-0 down and then you're chasing the game. So, yeah, I feel there's a bit of caution as well. They showed Canada a bit of respect, which, you know, is rightly so. And as we see it, we go into the game at the half 0-0, which is, I would say, a fair enough result.
Yeah. In the second half, it's, again, if it's a boxing match, there's a lot of jabs. No real haymakers. 58th minute, Gressel, little bit of skill, slick back heel to Busio, who's brought down by Kamal Miller, gets a yellow card. This is the third yellow card for Canada in the first hour. And then we have a sub of Fraser coming in for Bombito. And then it was interesting in the 61st minute because I feel like, you know, there's a bit of a narrative that the US crowds aren't really into the games. You know, MLS doesn't create loyalty, all this. You can hear the "We want Brandon" chants from the crowd in the 61st minute with the game at 0-0, wanting the hometown boy Brandon Vazquez on the field. And I thought that was cool. You know, I don't hear "We want Rashford" when England play at Old Trafford. You know, I find sometimes England crowds a little bit cynical. We boo our players because of club loyalty, but there seemed a real excitement to see their hometown Cincy player play for the national team here. And I think there's room in life for joy and excitement. Too many people sort of look down their nose on it. I thought it was cool.
I think it's a great thing to have. And you know, players are hearing that. The coaches are hearing that. You're at a stadium where I would say a player is a key player in the team who's close to the fan base. He's doing very well at the club at the minute. So, it's uplifting. It's nice to hear. Too many times we hear players getting booed or, getting abused on the field for not passing the right way, playing too many back passes, square passes, missing chances. So to hear the fans chanting for a player to come on the field, and when he does actually eventually get on the field, you hear the huge ovation. And I felt that gave the fans a lift. And I felt like it changed the dynamic of the game just because it lifted the fans. And I felt like that spirit fed into the players of the US national team. And that gave them a bit more belief and a bit more like sense of urgency, which is crazy to think that, you bring in on one player who's playing at that stadium and look what he does and the impact he can bring to the team. So no, it's refreshing. It's nice to see, and it's as a player, if you're hearing that and the coach is looking down at you as you're warming up and you're thinking, well, I'm coming on next. I feel that's great. The fans are saying that, and you think you'll be buzzing to get on. That's all you want to do is get on.
I feel like I'd be doing push-ups to calm the adrenaline.
I'll be running. If that was me now going back, thinking it back, and if I get a chance to go back, I'll be like, oh, I'll be doing sprints up and down. Then, yeah, come on. I'll be warming up in front of the coach, like mine.
Remember the Soccer AM, the Eastern European substitutes? Did you ever see them?
No, I didn't see them, no.
I'll have to show you them after the call. I'm going to put a link in the YouTube, but they used to have like hour-long interviews going on with two 1980s Soviet Union substitutes doing all these calisthenic exercises in the background the whole time. It was awesome. But the game goes on. We get a second error from Jalen Neal. He gives Canada possession. The attack breaks down, ball spills, recovered by Turner. I'm not one to say a bad game makes a bad player, but I just feel like this boy struggled here. I know personally from coaching college and now third-tier pro that sometimes a bad game can, over the long term, really help you. It really puts you under the gun emotionally in ways that you can't. People can talk to you, people can advise you, you can say you're going to recover, but until you're out there in the spotlight struggling with the crowd and the TV cameras on you, I think there's a certain resilience that you can't develop until you're under the gun. Did a young Justin Hoyte have that game where you struggled and ultimately it helped you over the long term?
Yeah, 100%. I'd say many games. And I would say in today's world, it's not just fans' reaction to playing bad or players playing bad. I'd say social media plays a big impact on that as well nowadays. When I was at the Borough, yes, social media was there, but it wasn't as big as it is now. Certain things weren't highlighted as much as they would be now. But yeah, and I feel them kind of moments kind of shape who you are. You either learn from it and take that experience and become a better player, or it's happened to some players that they crumble, and it is hard. Even in day-to-day life, stuff happens like that. It's how you react, how you recover from it. And at the end of the day, you're there for a reason. You know why you're in the team. You've been given a job and a task to do. And, you just got to look at it as you've made a mistake or you've had a bad game, and that's it. That's all it is. It's a bad game. You're not a bad player from a bad game. Everyone has a bad game, yes. Does that determine how your career is going to end up in a bad way? No. Does it impact how you are as a person? No. The only thing it impacts is your mentality and how strong you are as a character. If you go through them certain experiences, it's like, right, I've been through this. I didn't like that. How am I now going to get better from it? You learn, you train, and you go back to what got you to where you are now. As a young player, what is the beauty of it? That you've always got, I would say, time. It's not time because, football careers go quite quickly, but you still got that experience where you're like, right, I've had that negative experience. I've had that bad experience. Now I can take that, what I've learned, and I would say it's a football and soccer education to say that, right, that's a bad experience. How did I get over it? How did I recover from it? Right. So in a year's time or a month's time, 2 months, 3 months time, if that ever happens again, I know how to deal with it. I know how not to deal with it. And within that, you get a better player. And that's why some players are senior national teams on a regular basis, because they can get over certain situations or mistakes or things that have happened to them in the past. They can get over it quickly, and they've learned from it and they've got better from it. You look at top players, world-class players. We'll probably talk about penalties. Top players have missed penalties. Top players have given goals away. Top players have scored own goals. Like, top players, world-class players have had bad games. It's part and parcel of being a footballer, being a soccer player. It's how you overcome them situations determines who you are.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I've had them moments. Yeah, not been great. I must admit, it is hard. I would say it's probably harder in England when you're getting abused every 5 minutes once you give a ball away. Yes, that has happened. But I mean, it didn't stop me. I still played the game. Like, it was a bad game. Is a bad game. Like, what can you do?
The biggest problem with the mob mindset, and usually the real vitriol and the real hatred comes when people hide in mobs and groups, is they've never had a bad game, right? Because they've never played a game. They've never made a bad decision as a coach because they've never coached a game.
And I say it like, I've sat in crowds and I've listened to fans talk about players, and I've been on the field and I hear fans talking, and sometimes I would say football and fans and certain situations, it's a 30-second reaction. You give a bad pass away, the fans are going to tell you you're the worst player in the world. You could give the best pass in the world, the fans would then tell you, oh no, he's the greatest player in the world. Do you know what I mean? That's how football fans are, like soccer fans are. Even me at home, sometimes I'm watching the games, even this game, I'm watching it and I'm thinking, oh, what a bad pass. Why did he pass there? Do you know, that's me saying, why did he do that? But I'm at home sitting there thinking, well, why has he done that? He could have done something easier. But when you're actually on the field, it's that decision that you make determines, someone else's reaction who's at home watching. It's easy to sit at home and watch the whole field because you can see it all. But when you're on the field, it's like you're in like a little bubble. And I would say, yeah, as a fan watching, even me sometimes, I'm like, oh, how can he miss that? How has he done that? But then I think to myself, what? I was a player. I've missed them chances. Like, it's normal. But as people at home and soccer fans as we are, your natural reaction is, oh my gosh, how has he missed that? And if he scores a world, you're like, oh my God, that's the best goal I've ever seen, when technically isn't. But that's your reaction. And that's just a reactional thing, I think.
Yeah. Good. 63rd minute, we get a sub. It's not who the crowd's being for, so BJ Callaghan's going to make them wait. It is the impressed young teenager Cade Cowell for Zendejas. Thought Zendejas was good in the Trinidad game. Really didn't see much out of him here. Do like Cowell. High energy, spark plug, big, strong, runs in behind, creates his shooting lanes, goes at people off the dribble. Big fan of his, actually. And USA start to create. Gressel crosses for Busio. Good save by St. Clair. Cowell bursts forward, opens his lane, fires wide. And as this clock clicks into the last 20 minutes, for the first time I'm starting to think the momentum is starting to take hold with the USA. What are you thinking?
It is, yeah. And like you say about Cowell, he's a good player. You look at him, he's only 19. You look at him as another player who potentially is going to be in the next in the World Cup. In a few years' time, he's going to gain that international experience, that club level experience. So he's going to be even better. He's a beast. I mean, you look at the front line of the US national team as the game goes on in this later on. They've got beast of players. And I say they're not just beasts, they're dynamic, they're strong, they're fast. And now they're actually getting technically better, which is something frightening to think of. But yeah, as it coming towards the end of the game, you are thinking it is favoring more the US. The US are getting a bit more confident. Their spirits are high, and you do think or sense that a US goal is going to happen.
Yeah, and 73rd minute, it has arrived. Brandon Vazquez and his Cincinnati teammate Matt Miazga come on. Miazga replaces Neil, who I thought was under some pressure, and the coach has probably done him a favor there, taking him out the line of fire. And the largely anonymous Mihailovic, who again was very good v Trinidad, understand made some good plays throughout the group stage. Didn't see a lot today. And we got Vazquez and Miazga in for Neil and Mihailovic. I have never seen, or I do not remember seeing, a crowd go this nuts for a substitution in a 0-0 game.
Cincinnati.
Yeah, you got a mother kissing a baby and shouting excitedly at her, probably saying you're going to remember this when you grow up. We got like big heads of Vazquez in the crowd. It sounds like a goal's gone in. And it's refreshing. You know, I feel like the modern age of soccer fan is very, very bitter, very jaded. A lot of people know it all, and they've moved past the excitement into needing to show you everything they know. I really enjoyed watching this substitution and the crowd's reaction to it. There was some real palpable excitement, and it was great. And good for Cincinnati. Like, this is a great atmosphere. This is a great event they're putting on, and it speaks well to US soccer.
It's great. I mean, you know, I've seen firsthand the Cincinnati fans, how passionate they are about the club, but even more passionate they are about the national team. And to see that with one player and just to see the impact he's got on them, and for them to give that back to him is unbelievable. It's great to see. And I say to people, you know, when I went to Cincinnati, I was in a place where I was like, do I want to carry on playing? Do I not? But going to Cincinnati, playing in front of the fan base made me fall in love with the game again, just because the fans were just so passionate, and it was great. And in this, if you have more games in the US and you've got that fan base and you it's great. It was unbelievable, and it's great to see. And as we're going to talk now, it's great that Vazquez, I would say, repaid the fans.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't let them down. Within 2 minutes of subbing on, Cowell, who's again is just a little spark plug off the bench. He tees up Vazquez, and there's a first touch, and he flashes a shot wide, and it doesn't go in. But the crowd reaction makes you well aware that if this guy scores, they're going to blow the roof off this stadium. And another 2 minutes later, there's another shot over the bar. And physically, this man is a wrecking ball. You know, I watch a lot of Championship. To me, he might be a slightly better version of Daryl DK, who kicks around the US national team, who had real damage at Barnsley, playing well at West Brom. I see no reason Vazquez couldn't, at the very least, make an impact in that league. He looks a good player. He really does.
Yeah, he's a good player. I think he's a good player. I think he's got better over the years, which is to say he's great and great to see. And at the minute, you can see why there's interest in him from Europe. I would say he's built like a European striker. He's built like a typical English number 9. And I've said on the Cincinnati podcast before that I feel he'll be great for the US national team as a target man number 9, just because of his build, his size, and his attribute that he brings. And, you know, he's shown that when he's come on and performed well. And I feel that this Gold Cup has done him wonders.
And it's a fascinating contrast, isn't it? Because Ferreira's had a good tournament. For me, he's had a good game here. But they couldn't be more different, could they?
No.
Vazquez is a wrecking ball. He's on the edge of crosses. He's running behind. He's pressing and harassing. And Ferreira's getting between the lines. Great first touch, looking to play forward. They're very much I feel like most coaches are going to already have decided which of these two players they like, because they both have different molds.
Yeah, and I feel like you can they end up playing together in this game later on, but each player fits into a certain manager system. So Ferreira would fit into a certain system. I feel Vazquez would fit into a certain system. And what is good that now we're talking about now in a Gold Cup in a tournament situation is that you need these type of players that can do different things. You know, you play Ferreira, okay, it's not worked out for him in this game. You move him to the side, you bring on a target man, number 9, and Vazquez goes and scores. Do you know, like, that's a target, that's something different. You can put the ball in the box, you know he's going to be in there. You put crosses in, you know he's going to be attacking everything in the box. Or do you want a bit of flair with Ferreira, someone getting into the lines, getting into pockets? And, end product at the end of the day, he's got nice feet in the box. He's a great finisher. So in that sense, you're looking at it thinking you've got two completely different individuals as strikers, as number nines, but what a headache it is to have.
Yeah, agreed. And he's clutch. He scores in the 88th minute. It's his third goal of the tournament. One has been an 88th minute equaliser to get a point against Jamaica. And the second is an 88th minute, which felt at the time like it would be a winning goal in a quarterfinal against Canada. The ball gets played out to the left back, the impressive Michigan State alum, DeJuan Jones, opens his body up, touch forward, cross in from deep, and plants a header, very strong header past the keeper. And the stadium erupts. Beautiful scenes, to be honest with you. And I thought the game was over. I would not have bet a single penny on any other result other than the USA win at this point. I thought the game was done. What were your thoughts watching this going?
No, it was a great header, great movement from Vazquez, and I've seen him do it in the Cincinnati games. Peels off the back shoulder, and I'd say what a cross round his head, and I mean you only have to touch it a little bit, and it goes in the back of net. But what a cross and great movement from Vazquez.
Yeah, and then an injury time penalty. Another weird play. VAR does this. It's like I'm watching live. I didn't think it was a penalty at all.
No, I didn't either.
They come out, they're dribbling, you're just following the game. All of a sudden, the game stops. We go back. You see the TV replay. The ball's bounced up off the Russell Rowe, the first substitute forward, who I believe is the MLS Next Pro Golden Boot winner. So he's a young prospect to watch. It's on to Miles Robinson's arm again, just like the first half, except this time he doesn't get away with it. And Canada have a 93rd minute penalty, which defender Vittoria steps up and sends down to the middle to pretty rigorous boos from the home crowd. I believe the appropriate word would be scenes for what we're watching here. What an ending. What an ending. Did you think it was a penalty?
Yeah, it's a penalty. I mean, nowadays, if anything hits your arm in the box, it's going to be a penalty. Are they going to change the rules in that? Probably not. But I mean, it's a hard situation now with the handball in a situation. You can have your hands by your side, and if the ball bounces up and hits your arm, it's not your fault. It's a penalty, but it's a tough one to take. Obviously, late on, that Canada get a goal just from a penalty in that dodgy handball decision.
Yeah, it's like before VAR, and you've said something similar earlier. This isn't getting given.
No, it's not. No, 100%.
93rd minute against the home team. Yeah, it'd be a brave one. Corner in the direction of Vittoria for a dramatic late win is cleared by Miazga. Header from Vazquez, save from St. Clair. And after 90 minutes of game time and a combined 20 minutes of added time across both halves, 110 minutes of soccer, we're still not settled. We're going to extra time. When we go to extra time, would you be betting on the USA, who have played, I believe, better across the run of play over the 90 minutes, or Canada, who have put a emotional dagger in the home team and have all the momentum? What were you thinking at the time?
No, I mean, you would say it's still a bit even, but you would say the momentum's with the Canada national team.
I had a feeling
just because they've got that last minute goal and they've got the momentum going for them, and the US got a bit of wind knocked out of them.
That was exactly what I thought. I thought USA were the better team. If I was a coach, I'd be the happiest if I was Callaghan, not Herdman. I had a feeling that was an emotional dagger. I'm very impressed at the USA's resilience to come back from that and play well in the extra period. I had a feeling Canada might go on and snatch this. Jordan Morris comes in for Gressel, who I thought had a good game. Aaron Long comes in to add some physicality to the back line. But the first chance is for Canada, and it's the young winger from Nashville, Jacob Schaffelberg. Mm-hmm. When I was working at Dartmouth, I used to go recruit in the NEPSAC arena. It's elite academic prep schools. They do PG years. They've got some real strong high schools. And Berkshire have a phenomenal lineage of players who went on to the MLS, like Ifan and Yachi Achara, went on to play in Europe, like Jack Harrison, Went on to play for me at Dartmouth, like Justin Donowa, who's playing in the English leagues now. And Schaffelberg actually played on that Berkshire team, skipped college and signed for Toronto. And I thought he was phenomenal. I was really impressed with Liam Miller. I thought when they subbed Liam Miller off, there was no downgrade. In fact, Schaffelberg might have, he's younger, but he might have a little bit more. I think he's younger. Maybe he's not younger. He might have a little bit more going forward 1v1. Very, very dynamic player, very exciting player. I can only imagine they're teaching him something tactically for him to be on the bench, because I thought he gave them absolute nightmares. He drives at Reynolds. He creates enough space to cross. His cross finds Russell Rowe. He loses Long in a tight space. I thought it was a bad player from Long to lose a striker in front of goal so easily. Russell Rowe fires it over the bar. I thought that was a big, big chance. And this is when I'm watching, thinking Canada's heading towards victory. What are your thoughts on Schaffelberg?
He done well when he come on. I mean, he's a good impact player to come on, a good substitute to bring on, and he showed that with his goal also. So a great player to bring on late on in the game, and when you've got tired legs as defender in extra time, he's one of the players you don't want coming on.
Yeah, and the game's wide open now. There's a similar chance at the other end. This time it's Busio released. He cuts it back for Cowell. Very good defensive play by Kennedy, who won't be as fortunate later in the game. And it's getting a bit to end. You can see the tired legs. You know, officially it's 100 minutes right now, but really it's 120 in because of the 20 minutes of added time. I feel like that's showing at both ends. I feel like we're seeing more defensive subs than you typically see. Schaffelberg's in again. Great cross. Miazga clears it. This guy is giving them nightmares. And between him and Miller, there's no problem going forward for Canada on the left flank, right? Especially when they got Alphonso Davies not even there. You're watching this team and you imagine when they bring back in their A players, this is going to be a very strong team down that side. End to end now. Cowell battles with Kennedy, wins the USA a corner. And then in the 103rd minute, Ferreira, who's now dropped back in as a number 10 to accommodate Vazquez. He drives forward after a turnover. He releases Cowell. Cowell cuts inside. The shot deflects off Vittoria, goes wide. He's screaming like it's an episode, like it's the 300 movie, and he's a Spartan defending his territory. This is game on right now. This is when I'm starting to, as a viewer, really enjoy myself. Busio finds Miazga from the corner in the front zone, who forces a great save from Dane Sinclair. And the reaction again by the Canada keeper and the defenders. This game means a lot to these players on this field. There is a lot of emotion, and both teams are going 100% for a win here.
Yeah, they are. I mean, you know, it's a football tournament situation. Both teams want to win. They probably don't want to go to penalty shootouts, and that kind of showed in the efforts towards the end of the extra time.
Yeah, so we come out for the second half of extra time. So now we've had 105 minutes of gameplay. We've had 20 minutes of added time. We're 2 hours deep now in terms of physical exertion. Long ball forward by the USA, gets half cleared, falls to Busio, smashes it, probably right at St. Clair. It's a sharp save, but it's probably right at him. And then we get a goal in the 108th minute. Schaffelberg, he hassles Reynolds again. He wins the ball back for Canada. There's a couple of short, sharp passes. Schaffelberg finds himself 1v1 with Miazga, drives forward, no problem opening a shooting lane, drives it low far corner, and the crowd is stunned. It's 2-1 Canada.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great individual. You'll say individual goal is a great individual brilliance. That's why I brought him on as an impact substitution, and what a way to silence the crowd.
Yeah, thoughts as a top-level defender yourself? Is it easy to say that Miazga is poor here? Like, is he let that shot go too easy, or is it the reality that he's 1v1 with a very good forward and he hasn't been beat off the dribble and he's done what he can do?
I mean, he's done what he could. I mean, he's done what he can do. You, as a defender, you get told to force him wide, and you know, unfortunately, the striker has shot through his legs. You know, in another instance, should he have blocked with his right foot, maybe? But you know, it's one of them ones you lunge and it hits you, or you know, it's one of them ones. He should have defended with his other foot and maybe blocked it and kept his feet closer. But at the end of the day, he's done the right thing, tried to show him down the line, and the guy's cut on his left and struck it through the player's legs, and there's not much you can really do there.
Yeah. Crowd is audibly silenced, but the USA responds almost immediately. Cowell crosses, header over from Busio. A minute later, the pressure in response pays off. Long ball forward from Turner. Kind of a diag to the corner of the 18. Miazga's there, heads it across goal. Big, strong Jordan Morris nods it down. Busio fires a shot that St. Clair saves, but it ricochets right into Kennedy. Ball rolls into his own goal. 2-2. Crowd going absolutely mental again. And what a game. What a game.
Yeah, it's a great game. What a way to end the game. I mean, sometimes you need a little bit of luck, and that's the luck the US needed. And, now you're looking at it thinking, right, the US have got the momentum. And as you see, it goes into penalty shootouts. And I'd just say penalty shootout is the lottery. Basically, who's the most confident. And, who do you bet as a goalkeeper to save you in the tournament?
Yeah. In the last 2 minutes before the penalties, Canada have to turn away 3 corners. Then Sands forces a turnover and feeds Cowell, who gets dragged down for a 4th attacking set play. It's wasted by a foul on the goalkeeper from Miazga. I don't know about you, but as a coach, those fouls for jumping into the goalkeeper, they really let an opponent off the hook easy. And then there's a little bit of tough guy act, both teams pushing and shoving and fighting. But ultimately, I think it's a bad play because you've let Canada off the hook by jumping into the goalkeeper and conceding a foul and a call that's given 100% of the time when you had them really under the gun. Whistle blows and we're off to penalties. What a game. Any involvement yourself firsthand, Justin, in penalty shootouts?
Yeah, 1 or 2, yeah. The most nerve-wracking thing you'll ever do, the longest walk you'll ever take. It's horrible. I must admit, the goal looks like it's the smallest 5-a-side goal you've ever played in. The goalkeeper looks huge, and it's horrible. I've witnessed a penalty shootout where
take one.
Best strikers have not wanted to take a penalty. Our most confident of players have not wanted to take a penalty. Basically, whoever wants to take it takes it. And at the end of the day, now I see it as having been through that experience. If you one of the ones who step up and take it, go with where you want to go, and that's it. If the keeper makes a great save, he's made a great save. Just be confident. Just be focused, and don't change your mind. I've been in penalty shootouts where I changed my mind and I missed, and then I took another. I got lucky enough to take a next one, and I said I'm not going to change my mind. I went there very confident and I put it in. But when you're standing on that line, I must admit you are thinking, do I change my mind? Do I go here? Do I go there? You see someone else put it in the way you're going to put it, and you're going to be like, oh no, the goalkeeper's going to read that. I've got to change it. Like, there's so much that goes through your mind in that situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always been a believer that just plan it, train it, make a decision and execute it.
Because everyone says, you should train, blah, blah, blah. And I'll be honest, we had a penalty shootouts against Nashville. And before the training sessions, before Nashville in the USL playoff game, I missed every penalty in training. Every penalty in training. And they was like, you missed every penalty, blah, 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 but this and that. And I said, I'll tell you what. I said, it's training. When it comes down to the game, I'll score. Because, training's training. You can't train. You can train penalties practice where you're going to take it. But at the end of the day, when it comes down to the game and the match situations after you've played however many minutes, you can't train for that. You can't train how your legs are going to feel after 120, 125 minutes. You can't train you can train mentally how to train for a penalty shootout, but you can't, the crowd, the whole atmosphere, the whole everything around it. 2 people miss before you, that's going to change how you think. Everyone scores, you're now going to be thinking, am I going to be the one that misses? I need to score. There's so much different pressures that go into game situations that aren't in training situations that you can train for, that all you have to do is be confident. And, luckily enough, I scored. So it was tough situations I've been in penalty shootouts. I've missed some and I've scored some, and I always say I'll always take it again. And if I miss, I miss. That's life.
Yeah. So, a summary of the shootout. Canada's up first. Vittoria, the goal scorer. It's a bad penalty. He does the old shuffle step, smacks it straight at Turner, who stands his ground and saves. Big emotional reaction from Turner again. Very, very obvious that these guys they're out to win this game. This is no joke. And then it looks like a Hollywood story being written. Vazquez strides forward, hometown boy, stepping up for his big moment, scoops it over the bar. Bad start by both teams. Fraser comes up. The announcer says he scored 0 career goals. It looks like it. Turner chooses the right direction. It's hit pretty well, pretty close to the corner, but I don't think it's hit hard. And ultimately, it's a very comfortable save. And then we have daylight for the USA, the young teenager, Cowell. He steps up. St. Clair picks the right direction and goes that way. Cowell picks the direction and goes that way. Cowell smashes it down the middle. Canada equalize, and their third penalty, Kamal Miller. Turner picks right again, but Miller blasts it just above his hand. You're probably talking a matter of inches, separating a save and a goal here. Busio, who's been the man of the match for me at this moment, holds his nerve, steps up, top bins, postage stamp, tops off a big-time performance, 2-1 USA. Russell Rowe, the young boy, steps up, freezes Turner, rolls it to his left to tie the score. Ferreira steps up, and you can feel the knife sharpening, right? All the critics who've had so much to say, they're coming if he misses this. He's probably been the most hotly discussed player at this tournament. Tucks it away. Sinclair guesses right, but it's a good penalty. He keeps the pressure on. And, Brim from Canada is now in the worst position you can be. If he misses, his team have lost. You're out the Gold Cup. If he scores, your only reward is USA having a penalty to win. He breaks under the pressure, smashed it against the bar. Game over. USA on to the semifinals to play Panama. Matt Turner makes a beautiful tribute. R.I.P. Malia, in a young lady who lost a battle with cancer, which was a real nice touch on his shirt after he's won the shootout. And the game is over and we're in the semifinals. A note here on Matt Turner. Coming the game, the announcers told us he'd saved 11 of 24 penalties faced in the professional game, which means after this game, he has stared down 14 out of 30, and they've not went in. Almost 50% saved or missed. That's outrageous, right? Statistically.
Yeah, crazy. Statistically, shows he's a good shot stopper, a good PK shot stopper, and I guess it kind of showed again in this tournament.
Yeah, and some interesting post-game notes. Canada coach Herdman believes his team have received too much criticism. I think he's right. And the reason I think he's right is in my life, when people have talked about Canadian soccer, it's always been complimentary and it's always been uplifting, because it's not patronizing, but if you're not succeeding and you not have any success, people are always going to be nice to you. People are always going to seek out the good. People are always going to try and lift you if you're down. That's, a nice part of the human nature. But I think Canada are running at the other part of human nature now, where they've had success that's above what people perceive their place to be. I think the fact that they win the World Cup qualifying group has upset some fans. I know he got a lot of heat for saying what he said about Croatia at the World Cup, but I think the real reason for the higher level of criticism Canada are getting nowadays is frankly because they've started winning and they've become better, and people are threatened by it. And the friendly little Canadians who never win a game are very lovable, and a Canada that might beat you might need slapping back into their place, according to the general discourse. So, thoughts on Canada? Are they getting too much criticism since their own 3 World Cup and now this?
No, but they are. I mean, you look at Canada before, they was never even heard of, a lot of teams, people would be like, oh, we're going to beat Canada easy. Nowadays, you look at the amount of players that are coming through. Canada that are going back have gone overseas, playing obviously in MLS, playing in Europe. Alphonso Davies to just to name the one. They're getting better. Credit to them. And along with that, when you do get better and start winning games, of course, you're going to get criticism. You're going to get people that want to knock you down. That's normal. but at the end of the day, they're doing something right because people are criticizing them.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they've got there for a reason. They've done well in the World Cup. They got to the World Cup. They've won games that they shouldn't have, and they're performing well. So, along with that, you've got to receive criticism. At the end of the day, as a team and as individuals and as an organization, sometimes at club level, you're not always going to get praised. You look at Man City, people hate Man City, but at the end of the day, they keep plugging away and winning.
Yeah.
You look at when Arsenal won unbeaten, people hated them, but they won. Man United back in the day, everyone hated them, but they won. And now everyone hated them because they was winning. When Arsenal were losing, I'm an Arsenal fan, so when they was losing, everyone was laughing at them. But when they was winning, they was criticizing them, hated them. So, and with Canada, if they're going to do well, people are not going to like them because they're doing well. If they wasn't doing so well, people would say, it's Canada, it doesn't matter, it's easy victory. But now they're performing well against the US. They're going to receive criticism, and the coach is going to receive it also, just because he's got them to a certain level now that people are expecting them to win. And that's the beauty of the game. And at the end of the day, that's a good position to be in, that people are now, the Canadian fans are now looking at it and saying, well, why aren't we winning these games? Whereas before they was like, oh my gosh, we're going to get battered. They're now looking at it as if say, well, we should be winning these games, which is great. And that is a stepping stone for your national team, your country, to moving forward and looking into a World Cup. You're thinking, right, how far can we go?
So going forward to the semi-final against Panama, there's some interesting thoughts to consider. I think the two fullbacks are safe. I think Neil's had a poor game, so you wonder if the more experienced Miazga comes in there. Cowell's been very impressive. Vazquez has been very impressive. Ferreira, he didn't score, but he played well. So you've got like an accumulation of things. And personally, I'd move Ferreira back to 10, play Vazquez as the 9 in front of him. But here's an interesting question for you. If you were, and I know it's not a decision because you could play them both, but if you were forced to decide between the guy who scored 6 goals in the, maybe 7 goals, I can't quite remember, in the group stage, or the guy who's only scored 3 goals, no, it's 6 goals in the group stage, or the guy who's only scored 3 goals, but 2 of them were clutch. 88th minute against Canada, 88th minute against Jamaica. One could have been a game winner. One was an equalizer. Do you go with the 2 clutch goals, or do you go with the accumulation of 6 goals?
No,
lesser.
I would say I'd go Ferreira. But why I say that is because he fits in the type of mold of the way I like to play football. And I feel like Brandon Vazquez, he's scored off the bench. He's an impact player, and he's someone that can change the game off the bench. So I would say Ferreira, just because of the goals he scored in the tournament, the type of player he is. And I feel that Vazquez at the minute is a great impact substitution for the national team.
Yeah, my opinion, and one's not right and one's not wrong, but we're shaped by how we grew up. And when I was growing up and watching football, the ultimate striker was Shearer. After Shearer, I really enjoyed Drogba at Chelsea. So I really like the image of that target man and that spearhead. And a player like Ferreira, I'd have no issue moving him deeper to get him more of the ball. And when you've got the ball and you push on, a number 10 turns into a striker anyway. So they'd spend a lot of the time as a traditional front two. I also think, and I didn't know this before this game, I think he shows the ability to put a shift in defensively when he's moved back there. There's one play to the top of his own 18 to win the ball and start a counter-attack. So, good game. Any final thoughts?
No, Trinidad aren't in it. The US played well. It was a good game. Good battle between 2 good international teams, and I would say 2 teams that have fielded youngsters for the future.
Stuff. Been a pleasure. We will be back for the Panama semi-final.
Thank you. Take care.